I was born in 2025. But I wish I'd grown up in the 1980s. Like all my heroes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Trailer Jones. I am Brandon Jones. I'm joined by Mr. Kyle Bossman.
I love trailers.
And Mr. Daniel Bloodworth.
I love trailers.
Trailer Jones is brought to you by Hogue Law, business law firm, who you can find at www.hoaglaw.com. And this is a hot time for trailers. If you like trailers, you bask in the glory that is Comic-Con 2017. Unfortunately, we only do a trailer a week, and so if we're going to be covering Comic-Con, I feel like if you had a grab bag, if you had the kitchen sink of trailers that came out of SDCC 2017, it's probably Ready Player One, because there's so many references. It's the classic book versus film argument of, like, is the translation good? You got Steven Spielberg, which stirs up all sorts of emotions no matter what age you are. So there's a lot going on here emotionally. But before we go in, I just want to inform people on the reference that we all have. I actually read this book and I enjoyed it. I also had many problems with the book too, so I have lots of conflicting ideals. Kyle Bossman, what is your history with Ready Player One?
I do not read books.
Excellent. Daniel Bloodworth, you read a book or two. Have you read Ready Player One?
I have not read it, no.
Fascinating. So this might be the only time ever that, like, only I will have read a book that is based on the thing we are talking about. And this was and is a book about video games, a particular game which he called the Oasis. So I guess that's actually my first question, and I think one of the biggest concerns that people that read the book are voicing, and people that have no idea what are going on voicing, is what the hell is going on. So if you had your most educated guess as far as what the Oasis is, Kyle, what would that be?
Oasis is Second Life. Oasis is a big MMO that anyone can come in and be whatever they want to be in.
Mixing all the properties, like you picked that up, right? So they did enough.
Yeah.
So you have your multiple layers that you can peel off. For, like, obviously the Iron Giant and the DeLorean are probably the two most specific ones, but, like, there's some other fun ones buried in there. And just keep in mind, we're not going to be going through and listing all of those. That is a separate video. This is kind of more of a critical analysis of how this was sold, which is fascinating to get your perspective.
That video is actually recommended.
Yeah, it probably is. You're probably looking at it right now. It's right there. Go click on it after you're done with this. But Bloodworth, do you have any questions? Are you confused watching this?
I wouldn't say that I'm confused necessarily. I guess if anything, I don't know what the conflict is. It just kind of sets up that the Oasis exists, and that's about all I really know. Is the world is apparently a bunch of cars stacked on top of each other now, and the Oasis is where you have fun.
Well, he primarily plays racing games, so I mean, you gotta already. This is a protagonist that you can get behind, right, Blood? I mean,
the race is great. Yeah.
Is your great grandchild gonna be? Is this your great grandchild basically playing, like, Drive Club 20 inside the Oasis?
It's a little more Motorstorm, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, and that was one thing that I kind of had to just go along with, because that was a little bit of outside of my realm of believability that all of these properties one day could shake hands and, like, join together in this grand, conceit that is the Oasis. That just, like, sure, you could have He-Man and, Freddy Krueger and all of this crazy stuff happening.
Well, my take on it wasn't necessarily that, like, that it was like all these brands came together in some magical licensing way. It's just that people could put in whatever they want. Like, it's just totally kind of up to your own input.
So, Kyle, are you excited for this film?
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Big time.
So yeah, you know what, we should acknowledge, Jones, we should acknowledge that people are ragging on this trailer, I think. I think that's part of the story of like why we're even doing this episode, right? Is that, as many people as there are who are excited about this, there are just as many people making jokes about it on Twitter.
It really puts itself out there. It's a bonkers trailer, and I think it definitely paints a target on itself that you could easily make fun of it. I think the one legitimate concern that I would bring up is this is a cocky trailer, and all trailers are cocky.
Yeah.
Oh boy, it's like I never thought anyone could say anything positive about Steven Spielberg that I would be like, yeah, well, like how you could word his accomplishments in such a kind of dirty, weird way. It just, and the way they talk, the Holy Grail's like, it just kind of,
both of those
it just
really
doesn't,
got to me.
sit, but like not even in a kind of like self-referential way where like maybe it's making fun of itself or maybe it's kind of poking, because I mean, if you have read the book, like the book is about celebrity, it's about being known, it's about like creating an online presence that like impresses other people and the different, you know, crazy layers of status in this community. And so like maybe they're making like references to that, but like Are You Ready is like, come on, you know, like, any trailer, Justice League, Thor, Stranger Things, like anything coming out of Comic-Con could have easily been like, are you ready? It's like, okay, just calm down. Like, yes, because I'm watching the trailer. Just like, so yeah, so Kyle is pumped. Blood, are you pumped for this?
It definitely, like, it looks like it's done well. I think that it's got a lot of the aesthetics right. There's nothing that looks super weird. I mean, it's all kind of weird because of, you know, the way it's set up. I guess there's that one guy they keep showing. His face is definitely like, he's definitely a character. That the guy with the big nose and stuff. He definitely doesn't look quite human.
The orc with a gun.
Yeah.
You see him driving, you see him shooting. Yeah.
I think that's the main character's avatar, right, Jones?
I believe so. Yeah, I think he's
it?
a big orc, but I think you can change that obviously. But yeah, I think that is the character that he plays as, because you can see, I believe you see him walking into that club at one point, and he's not the orc; he's actually himself or something closer to himself in that scene. So
here's another weird, dumb thing: he like purposely like pulls the strap back and puts the visor on, but then when he rips the visor off, he just like pulls it right off his face, like straight.
Sure, maybe two different scenes, or yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a continuity lines up there as to like how this thing actually attaches to his head.
And just that moment, yeah, right at the end there, Kyle, that like, oh, that was awesome kind of moment. Like, is that too much, or do you like having a little breather?
I'm sorry, when he pulls it off, as in that was awesome moment?
At the end, yeah. Is that to me, it's a little cheesy.
It doesn't.
If you'll allow me to push up my glasses for a second, it's actually a completely different scene. I did check out the analysis on this stuff, and that's actually from a scene where the like CEO of the 101 company is having a conversation with him. You can see the CEO's reflection in the glasses.
Whoa.
So that wasn't a that was awesome. The expression the actor is trying to achieve there is that was heavy or that was a bad meeting.
Correct. Less about the character's intent and the contextual nature of the scene, and more about its implementation in the trailer. You know, to have that kind of.
I do want to talk about this character. I want to talk about how there isn't anything to get attached to character-wise in this trailer, and I think it may have been the right choice. So, like, basically, we don't even know this guy's name. We don't know what the deal is. As Bloodworth said, he doesn't have any indication of what the actual plot is. And I think that's fine if we think of this like a reveal trailer. I think this movie decided to present its best quality and its style in the world that it's creating, and not so much whether you care whether this guy succeeds or not in getting whatever crystal key we see at the end of the trailer.
Right.
And I think that's a good call. I think I'm not upset about it. You know what I mean? I think that he comes off kind of bland, but I like his optimistic narration. The things he's saying are depressing, but the way it's delivered, it's weird. There's a certain lightness to it that I kind of like.
One of the things that I'm seeing criticized a lot, because it is kind of funny, is that just this feels like you're just getting blindsided by all of these different references, and stuff seems really flimsy. You see something for a second and then it goes by, and so it seems like, you know, oh, does anything matter in this world when everything is so fleeting and everybody's trying to look their coolest and represent like their favorite brands? And I actually kind of love that. Like I don't mind that, and I think that's definitely true to the books, and I think it lends itself to the emptiness of potentially of this world, and the fact that everybody's together and you can do whatever you want, but at the same time, like, you're not actually living up to yourself. So starting off from a point of like almost being silly, I think is okay if they're able to drive the story at a later point. But it is interesting. Yeah, they don't really focus on that. To me, the only issues that I have with the story is like the actual storytelling. I think it feels like two separate trailers. Like we almost kind of get into his character, and then there's the clear like music video divide, and I think that could have been bridged a little more, a little smoother. And like I said, I think this trailer is mighty full of itself, and I think that might not play the way. I'd be curious to talk to the people who wrote this trailer and ask what intent went behind, like, specifically that verbiage. Like, how many revisions did the description of Steven Spielberg go through?
Chuds, can we talk about the second half of the trailer for a sec? Because I know you don't. You say it's kind of cheap when music lines up with edits. and I'm loving it big time.
For this is a book and a film about references. So if you're going to reference something in this movie about references, I don't care. You know, as long as there's a precedent for it.
Sure,
there's a reason for it, and it's very clear. So I'm on board. When it happens, I'm like that. Yep.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily referential, but like when you know, do every time you hit that do, there's the light changes, and just like even the gear shifting is syncing up to like the guitars and things like that. I love that. I love when things sync up like that. Are you not cool with that?
No, it feels good. Yeah, and I think it fits this scene because you might think that any one of these people is actually listening to that song right now because they have, you know, that's kind of the world that they live in. Like, you can customize this entire game experience, which is interesting that they're so uniform. Like, and so you basically see like the different layers of like how people approach this. That like some people are very uniform and other people are like very unique, much like in life. And so you can see all the symbolism that is in the book. That I just wonder how deep it's going to get, and I think it's an interesting introduction to this to just show it being completely bonkers and potentially not having any meaning, and then having a big glossy question mark at the end. Blood, do you have any last comment before we score this puppy?
It feels like two different trailers, like you very narration heavy versus very action heavy. We kind of lose the thread of where it's going and shift gears entirely. And then I think the pull off of the visor at the end is just kind of cheap. I don't think there's anything that they do there that like really says, oh, this is a moment for him to pull off the visor because this happened. It's like, no, he's still in the middle of a race. Like, what? Why? You know, it's like we just need to end of the trailer now. So that's how I kind of feel about that. And I'm totally with you on the title thing. And the pre-roll, I honestly, like, I know it's just the YouTube host or whatever, but I think that throws the whole mood off. And I think that's something that they need to think about when they post these in the future.
So have we found your pre-order now? So is it like we have to, if there's a pre-roll at the beginning, Blood will be upset. I'll really focus on the middle point, and then Kyle, you got to pick up the rear, and you got to really focus it. You got to look for that pre-order. If it's anywhere in there, you got to let us know. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I think this is a trailer for people that read the book, but I read the book, so maybe that's why I think that. But I'm going to go with an 8.4 for the Ready Player One trailer, because I think there are parts of it that I like. I don't think it's very cohesive, and I snickered at some parts and not in a good way. But I like.
Wait, which parts? I gotta know.
The titles. I mean, just the titles and him at the end, like, oh, this movie's gonna be sweet, and it's like, oh, okay, let's just. There's just a lot of there is humor here. There is dorkiness in this. There is joy to be had in a very self-referential way. Like when I had issues with the story in this book, I never had an issue with like it just making me happy. Like page by page, I was like, I know that reference. I played that Atari game, and that seems to be what Spielberg has tapped into. But the actual like pace of the trailer, like from one beat to another, I think is very much like we're doing the book and not like, hey, let me introduce you to this concept. And so I think that's what it's lacking, but still very fun to watch, and a really fun trailer to watch again and again and again, to pick up all the little references, not only references from your childhood, but like beats like that woman pole dancing in the background, and just like the stacks and seeing all the detail there where he lives. So a fun one from Comic-Con. Definitely better ones, but this is the one that we picked. Blood, what do you think?
I've shared most of my thoughts, but I'm going to go with a 7.6. I do think there's a lot of fun things shown in here, and it definitely makes me interested in the concept. But like I said, it feels, like it doesn't quite bridge that gap between the first and second half of the trailer. Those titles rub me the wrong way as well. It's like cinematic game changer. There's just a couple of things that don't really work for me. But I do think that the shots and the references are all good, and I think that racing scene, especially when they're like showing like what's happening, like lining up the people getting into the cars as well as what's happening in the real world, supposedly, even though they're probably not happening at the same time. I think that's a good kind of mirrored kind of shot there.
Kyle, what's the score going to be?
8.6 from me. I would like the viewers to know that I've actually gotten from this day forward, I'm putting my scores down before we start the show. So 8.6 was for real. Jones, I like a lot of things about this trailer. The music choices for both the cinematic intro, where it's what is the song from Willy Wonka?
I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, our imagination.
Yeah.
Just like using that and making it this like cinematic. It's still very like boom. It still does a lot of that. But I think that's a really interesting take on it, and obviously a great fit for what this movie's about. And then, the music selection for the race is also great. This might be more of a criticism of the movie than anything, but we really didn't get anything that's interesting about this character. There's nothing interesting about him in particular. I think the idea here is like, this white boy is you. That's you. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing particular about him. You're supposed to see yourself in him. And maybe trailer 2, we learn more about the story itself. But as we kind of opened up on, it's a trailer about the world. And I think the way that they choose to bring us into it and explain it and show it off scene by scene, the way they escalate that, with really nice shots. The dancing shot is, I think, the first really bizarre shot that we see. And then the Iron Giant, and then the really cool shot of the nice orange trees and the Back to the Future car spinning out. Like, those are nice shots. And there's an easy way to do this trailer where it's like Duke Nukem shows up and he goes like, "Oh, Duke Nukem?" And they didn't do that.
Yeah.
There was no, you could say that maybe the Back to the Future car is, super overt, but I don't think anything was overt. I don't think anything was, slamming your face in it and mushing your face in it and saying, aren't we cool for using these things? And I kind of respect it for that. It's unique, which is good.
I gotta say, as somebody that's not familiar with the book, the key at the end does nothing and feels completely out of place. I'm like, and there's a key that looks like it's out of Cinderella or something. I don't know.
That does nothing? I think that's cool.
I don't know. It just doesn't. I don't really get it.
You don't want to know what's on the other side of that door, Blood?
Is that a real world key? Is that an in-game key? I don't know.
That's not a... Blood, that's not a real world key. Come on.
There's definitely a search. There's a hunt.
Yeah,
there's a quest.
Which I think is cool. Yeah, that's fun.
So yeah, hopefully we will get to that on the next time around. That brings us to an 8.2 for the Ready Player One San Diego Comic-Con teaser, which came out of Comic-Con this week. Apologies for not scoring every single trailer coming out of Comic-Con. They are all fantastic. But I want to say thank you to everybody that offered suggestions for the Comic-Con trailers, and especially want to say thank you to Mr. Austin Brackeen, on patreon.com/easyallies, who suggested, among other trailers to come out of Comic-Con, that we check out and score the Ready Player One teaser. So thank you, Kyle, for doing the research. Thank you, Bloodworth, for checking out the trailer. And thank you, all of you, for watching. And we will see you next time.